Leader of the National Unity Front, Azad Saleh, says that the Sinhala people will not create room for communalism. He made this statement at a media briefing convened by the Organisation for Devolving Power and Uniting the Country.
We said that the Sinhala people in this country will not create room for communalism. Posters were put up in the Kandy district stating that I am a Sinhalese. They attempted to gain votes by promoting communalism. However, all these parties have lost today. Temples, churches and kovils have been broken down. These results indicated not a single Muslim in the government was elected. Former provincial councillors have lost. Despite all of this, the government's percentage everywhere was reduced to 11%, 7% and 9%.
මැතිවරණය තියලා මැතිවරණයේ ජනතා කියන දෙයට ඇහුම්කන් දෙන්න ඕනේ.
An election is held to lend an ear to what the public has to say. Room should be given for what the people say. We can accept it as a democratic process only through such means. Rumors were spread that our election manifesto spoke of dividing the country. Anyone who reads it will be able to understand that there was no such thing mentioned. We have clearly stated that this problem can be solved only by devolving power within a single country. The people have spoken. Since the government has listened to it and the Tamil National Alliance has been given a public mandate, talks should resume with the TNA. If one ethnic group holds complete power, then it is not a democracy.
Members of the Mahasangha are of the view that the United National Party cannot be steered to victory by the present leader of the party who does not understand the will of the people. They point out that the present leader is surrounded by a group of people who do not possess sound political knowledge.
What did Ranil Wickremesinghe's henchmen such as Harin Fernando say? They slang mud with the aim of toppling Dayasiri Jayasekara, but they were unable to understand the hearts of the general public. He is a person who can not only represent a province, but a person who can even represent the entire country. I knew from the very beginning who Dayasiri Jayasekara is. I believe even he does not understand his full potential. What has happened to the United National Party today? Ranil Wickremesinghe is surrounded by fools. They have no political knowledge. What are they saying? Does the general public accept or believe anything that they say? Therefore, if they think they can make the UNP emerge victorious, they are dreaming. First, you must understand the will of the public and the feelings of the public. You must understand what the people are saying. That is what is needed. When the talented and capable individuals are removed and instead those who have not set foot on grass nor have understood the pulse of the people of this country engage in politics, this is the disappointing situation that arises. When Dayasiri Jayasekara, who incidentally received a record number of votes at the recent North-Western Provincial Council poll, joined the ruling party, his move was criticized by parliamentarian Harin Fernando. However, following the victory of Dayasiri Jayasekara at the polls, MP Harin Fernando posted this comment on his Facebook page. Quote, "Disappointed, but we need to look deep within us and be honest to ourselves and the party. Either way, congratulations to Dayasiri. I did criticize him, but great achievement. I don't agree still with how he left us. I may have differences, but great show on your own." Unquote.
The opposition leader of the Western Provincial Council, Manju Sri Arangala, has addressed a letter to us with regard to a story aired on our primetime news bulletin last night.
That's right. This letter seeks to make clarifications regarding a news item on a proposal that was unanimously adopted at a meeting of the UNP group, the Western Provincial Council.
Translation. The news editor, News First, 45/3 Braybrook Place, Colombo 2. Dear Sir, regarding a news item broadcast by News First that is false and seeks to lead the viewer astray. As the leader of the UNP group in the Western Provincial Council and as the chair of the meeting of the UNP group of the Western Provincial Council held yesterday, where you mention a unanimous decision being taken, I can responsibly state that the news item broadcast on Sirasa, MTV and Shakti News under the headline "Proposal Adopted to Change UNP Leadership" is completely false and a tall story that could lead the viewer astray. It is my personal belief that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the only intelligent leader who can bring this country out of this hell and that he is the most mature leader in Asia. Thereby, I ask that you immediately give the same publicity to this correction as you did the news item in question. Manjushri Arangala, opposition leader of the Western Provincial Council and leader of the UNP group at the Western Provincial Council. Translation ends. Nevertheless, News First only broadcasts a news story after it is double-checked. We made inquiries from the son of MP Joseph Michael Pereira, UNP Western Provincial Councillor Srinath Pereira, who is said to have presented the proposal in question. We did this as a group. We are submitting it and then we will know. I will tell you then. Since you seconded it, I have a moral right to call you and inquire into it. I did not second it, I was the one who proposed it. In his letter, Manjushri Arangala notes that he believes that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the only intelligent leader who can bring this country out of this hell and that he is the most mature leader in Asia. This is Manjushri Arangala's personal opinion.
The International Monetary Fund has put a damper on Sri Lanka's hopes of achieving an economic growth of 8% this year.
The head of the IMF post-program monitoring mission, which visited Sri Lanka over the past 10 days to evaluate progress following Sri Lanka's completion of a $2.6 billion IMF program, said that in spite of growth acceleration in the second quarter of the year, it was unclear whether this acceleration would continue in the second half of the year.
Speaking at a media briefing convened at the conclusion of the IMF's missions visit today, Todd Schneider expressed these views.
GDP growth has accelerated to 6.8% in the second quarter of 2013. However, given moderate credit growth, flat budget revenues, and relatively low growth in non-oil imports so far this year, it's not clear whether the acceleration in economic growth will continue into the second half. The mission now forecasts real GDP growth for 2013 at 6.5%. The current account deficit has narrowed in the first half of the year, and the balance of payments surplus should widen this year as well.
A majority of the farmers in the Ampara and Polonnaruwa districts, where paddy cultivation is widespread, had to commence cultivation for the Yala harvest season with a sense of uncertainty regarding the fertilizer subsidy provided by the government. When the farmers eventually received the 50 kilo sacks of fertilizer at the subsidized price of 500 rupees instead of 3,500 rupees, the period during which they should have used fertilizer for their crops had long passed. Even before the farmers of the Mahavali B and C zones were dealt a blow through this apparently causeless fertilizer shortage, they had to face another problem, which was the delay on the part of the Mahavali authority in releasing water for the fields. These farmers should be considered as a group of people who are dedicated to the self-sufficiency of the country, even when actions which would make them despise agriculture are taking place. The farmers' enthusiasm to sell the paddy crop as soon as it is harvested is not a bad habit on their part, but rather a lack of choice in the matter. This is because these farmers also have to pay off loans they have obtained for cultivation throughout the harvest season. The harvest of the next season also depends on the farmers' ability to free themselves of debt. Those responsible for the vicious debt cycle that the farmers are trapped in are not unknown entities. If the responsible entities fail to, even in passing, show some consideration to the program initiated to relieve the farmers of their burden, then these farmers will forever be stuck in the vicious debt cycle. The failure to give government sponsorship to purchase the paddy harvest of farmers at a fair price and at the appropriate time is akin to putting a noose over the head of these farmers. Since the re-establishment of the Paddy Marketing Board, there have been shortcomings and at times excesses in the process of purchasing paddy. This issue has affected the farmers of the Mahavali B and C zones even more this time around, since in addition to the Paddy Marketing Board, even the cooperative committees have completely halted the purchasing of paddy. When it is evident that the Paddy Marketing Board has no plans in the works to open their storage facilities in the Mahavali B and C zones, shouldn't these farmers at least be given a solution similar to loading up the paddy harvest from Ampara and transporting it to Oyamaduwa in Anuradhapura? Minister of Economic Development, this is over to you.
A discussion to make clarifications on the progress in the case against the takeover of lands on Glennie Street in Slave Island, Colombo by the Urban Development Authority was held in the area yesterday.
Parliamentarian Attorney-at-Law Sujeeva Senasinghe also participated in this discussion.
This case was filed charging that the Urban Development Authority was attempting to take over lands on Glennie Street in Slave Island, home to about 480 families, for a project and then hand the lands over to a private investor. Their intention at first was to remove you from this location and take over this land. We said that we would not allow this. There were a lot of problems in this area. Since we all got together, we were able to achieve a major victory. Sujeeva Senasinghe made clarifications regarding the factors raised by members of the public at yesterday's discussion. When 580 families attempted to find homes for rent in Colombo, it will be difficult. So, the people are still asking that the rental allowance be increased and that they be provided with an easy rental scheme. It will have to be demolished. When this program was initiated, the people asked for a rental allowance until they could find homes for rent.
And now it's time for the newspaper cartoon of the day. That's all the news we have for you for tonight. For the News First team, I'm Nicola D'Zoiza.
And I'm Madhushka Balasuriya. And before we go, let's take a quick look at your weather forecast for tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night.
News First at 9.
Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.